All right, everybody. I am now pleased to welcome Ryyan Koleric to the Jeff Macolino Podcast. How are you, man?
What's going on, man? I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic. We're about to get hit with a blizzard out here. We're about to get 80 centimeters of snow overnight.
Oh, my air conditioning won't cool the house down. It's 79 and a half degrees right now. Need to call my air conditioning. I'm not joking.
If I showed you pictures of what is about to hit us, it's crazy. Like cameras they've shut down. Put it this way. I've been in Winnipeg now since 2003. I've been teaching for 10 years. I've never, ever once had a snow day. They've never shut anything down here ever. This is the first time.
Wow.
They're shutting down the schools. They're shutting down stores. They're telling people, get what you need. The city is going to be shut down. Like it's the worst blizzard they think they're expecting in over 45 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that I was joking, but I was also serious. Florida is like hot.
Yeah.
So is that normal in mid-April? Obviously it's the worst in 45 years. So.
No, like you might get a little bit of snow, but like last year I was golfing at this time.
Oh, okay.
Like this is killing my golf season. Now the ground's not going to thaw out here for another, 2 weeks. So not going to be golfing until May.
Yeah. Well, you could go out there and putt in the blizzard tomorrow, and you'd probably putt about as well as Tiger Woods did at the Masters.
Man, he had a tough go. Tough go.
You know what, though? I would say, and I watched almost every hole he played, except for the putting. He had a few holes on, I think it was Friday, the first 4 or 5, where he was a little rough. Off the tee and his mid-range game were pretty damn good. Yeah. He just couldn't putt for shit.
Yeah, I thought for sure his iron game looked fantastic.
Yeah.
In his woods, looked great. But his driver was, they showed a couple of graphics where like he was like 75, 80 yards behind Kisner a bunch. Like he started to fatigue. And you could see it, on the back nine on Saturday. He started to limp, and he was actually trying not to limp, so to not draw attention to it. But the first 36 holes, like I know, any sport in the world, momentum is a hell of a thing. He had about 5 or 6 putts burn edges.
Mm-hmm.
So just if those drop, he gets momentum. People start the roar there for any birdie he made was crazy. People want to see him be successful. So it was unfortunate. Any golfer in the world knows that some days those drop and some days those don't. Unfortunately, that's for a major, And,
yeah. He had 0 of those drops. It was, I said before, so I was watching it and I'm like, damn it, the putter's killing him. And I did a podcast for a Florida sports thing last Wednesday, and I'm like, if he just makes the cut, that is a massive, amazing achievement. Yeah. Frankly, even if he didn't make the cut, it would have been amazing for him just to get out there and golf.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like, well, after his first round, and then even, the last 13 holes of his second round, it's like, this guy could legit win this tournament. I mean, Scheffler was just so far away from everyone. But
he wasn't playing the same game.
Yeah, Tiger was, after going into Saturday, he was 4 strokes off second place. I mean, it's like he legit just makes some of those putts that he was, just barely missing. And obviously, the fatigue got him. And Sunday, I actually stopped watching because it was almost painful, because you could see he was trying not to limp, like you said, and which almost looks worse than just limping.
And if you look at his face, man, he's not aging well. He looks, like I looked at him, they did a close up, and that 4K camera didn't do him any favors. He looks tired. He looks like a person who's abused substances. And I don't say that in any kind of deflammatory way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, the fact that he made the cut and that he's still out there, they said, you're not going to walk again. Your tibia and your fibula are mush. You've got a plastic and metal leg now. And he just walked, 72 holes of golf. And
yeah,
it's all kudos to him. And I really do hope that he does. I hope he wins a major. It'd be awesome if he won the British Open. That'd be pretty significant.
Yeah, and I think to me, he showed that certainly. Again, he's getting up there in years, but skill wise, I mean, again, I think the way where he really fell, to the rest of the field was putting. That's not something that presumably age is going to.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember his last comeback when he changed his putter to that big mallet style thing for a while because his putting was the absolute weakness of his game. Yeah. So, I still have confidence, hopefully he doesn't need surgery or something after this week. That's
I guess you just keep your foot on the pedal, hoping that he stays healthy. But in true Saints fashion, didn't Rory McIlroy just epitomize what the Saints last 10 years has been like? Just like an unbelievable performance that just means absolutely nothing because you're not going to win the final prize.
Yeah, he had an astounding day, but yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's wild to watch a guy play that well. All for naught. Like, don't get me twisted. Like, he got to take home a big check.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, he took home a big check. So it's not all for naught. But I'm saying, winning the Masters, you shoot a 64 on Sunday, you should win.
You'd like to think you'd have a shot.
But Scheffler was just.
That was kind of a boring finish because he had that thing from the second round on. It was like, all right, if he doesn't collapse, he wins, and he didn't collapse.
Yeah, he stayed 1 under for quite a bit, and I think that he felt a little bit of nerves because you could see on some of the holes he wasn't attacking the same way he was earlier. He's like, let me 2-putt and get out of here.
Yeah,
let me get my par and get out of here. It wasn't attacking. So again, that's smart. You have a chance to get $2 million at a major. You just do what you got to do and get the hell out of Dodge. But
yeah, get that green jacket.
Yeah. Short list, right? So yeah. You're out in Florida. What's the talk out there in Florida with all the moves that the Dolphins have made?
Well, I talked to a lot of Dolphins fans, and they love obviously Tyreek Hill. They love Teron Armstead. I always just keep going back with and who's throwing them the ball.
Really? You're not a Tua guy?
I mean, if Taysom Hill threw with his left hand, I imagine he'd be about equivalent to Tua.
Oh, I think your dog. I think your dog.
No, you're right. Taysom can throw a little bit faster.
I'm in like every fantasy football player in the world. I'm in a bunch of groups with a bunch of guys, and the disrespect towards Tua for me is just it's a bit much. And I say it in this context. He is a national championship winner with pedigree that has proven that he can throw a football like at a very elite level. I equate the SEC as NFL minor leagues because that's really what the SEC is. You're playing against NFL talent every Saturday. So he was able to excel and be the number one guy, albeit he lost his job, based to injury, and Jalen stepped in, etc. But he's coming off of like an injury where 20 years ago you don't play ever again. Right. Like that hip injury, the supplication, you're not playing anymore. So I think he's still working himself back into like, can I do this? Like, I'm sure it's odd. And they weren't great last year. Like, who's he throwing to? Devontae Parker's a guy that doesn't get open very often. Preston Williams wasn't healthy all year. Albert Wilson was healthy, then he wasn't. Like that.
They love Jalen Waddle, even though I do not. I mean, he's talented in space, in a telephone booth, maybe is more like. I haven't seen him in space because I've never seen him run a route more than 5 yards down the field.
But he's a gamer, man. That kid.
Yeah.
I remember watching the national championship when he was coming back from injury, and he was trying to get himself ready to play because the doctor said you can't play, and he went and got changed and put his pads on. I said, for me, that just shows a lot of heart. Maybe not the most smarts, but a lot of heart, and I think that that's something that's lost nowadays with professional athletes. They want to collect the check, and you don't see them lay it out there. And I guess it's easy for me to say sitting at home, but that's what I like sports about. I like to see guys dig in and there's something bigger than just yourself. You're
Yeah.
actually really trying to. So I like Jalen Waddle. I've always rooted for guys like that. And now him and Tyreek and Gesicki.
Yeah. I was pissed that they franchised Gesicki because I had a big heart around him as a Saints fan. I'm like,
any of them, all the tight ends, none of them. Like
Dalton Schultz, I wanted him too.
all three of them. Njoku, I was like, yeah, I'll take Njoku. Like
I would have
nothing.
taken Austin Hooper, who just he signed a relatively affordable 1-year deal. I think
$6 million.
I mean, the Saints could afford that now that we cleared all that room for Deshaun Watson.
we got $30 million sitting in the kitty purse, and we're not spending it.
Yeah, and that's kind of still puzzling to me. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu seems like the obvious.
Yeah, that's my. I have
not that he's going to cost $30 million, but
no, but I have a theory that here's my random. I pray for this to be true because then I look like a genius, and I'll also get to enjoy the season because I'm an LSU fan as well. The Saints are waiting till after the draft. If they don't address safety, if they don't address, if we don't get the Alabama linebacker Christian Williams, right? Is that his name?
I think
if we don't get him, I think they're hoping to get him at 49 to kind of replace DeMario eventually. But if we don't get all that happening, I could see after the draft, Tyrann Mathieu, Quan, Jarvis Landry, and you just do the whole LSU thing. You got the money. Like if this guy wants 11 million, give him 11 million. You got it. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. You might as well spend it.
I'd even front load the deal. I mean, I know they don't do that often, but give them.
It doesn't hurt you down the road. Yeah.
Yeah. Front load it. You've got cap space for the first time in a long time. Like I guess you can roll it over, but
for what? It's going to go to 250. You're paying your quarterback pennies on the dollar. You have him locked in. If you want to extend him next year, you're still locked into the money that you got him on this year, and you can backload his contract then when the cap goes up again. So like by the time the Saints have to address quarterback, the cap's going to be around 270, 290. Yeah. Right. So like it's really not that big of an issue. And I'm actually like, we are so lucky we didn't get Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson would have nuked our cap.
How did you let me ask you this. This is an interesting, maybe non-football discussion. I had such an ebb and flow of emotions with the Deshaun Watson thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where at first I'm like, no, fuck that dude. I don't want that around this organization. I'll be honest. I love him as a football player. I mean, you're an idiot if you don't, right? I'm like, it's too messy. I still feel bad about number 42. Even though, he wasn't on the team when all that happened, I guess, but still
the most fun we've ever seen with a safety in black and gold ever.
Yeah. So that maybe that factors into my thinking. Well, I can't say more than it should, because, there's rough things there. However, when it was like, he's going to go to the Panthers, the Falcons, or the Saints, I'm like, well, fuck that. If he's going to be in the division, he better be on our team. And then I'm like, I'm so conflicted. Does that make me a bad person? I mean, Mickey Loomis made news for going on a podcast yesterday and saying, yeah, I hate the Falcons.
Yeah, he went on the Thomas Dimitroff.
Yeah. And thank God. That's why we love you, Mickey. Well, one of the many reasons.
And the fact that money's not real to you. Like, you just.
Yeah. It's just Ty Harley can figure it out. I'll get whoever I want.
I actually met Mickey. So I flew to. Oh, sorry, I'll let you finish your question, then I'll tell you about me meeting Mickey.
Yeah, well, no, I felt very conflicted with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. And then I'll be honest, while I was rooting hard, CD Deuce was giving a lot of vibes like he was in the trade back to the Texans.
I did not like that.
And that's my son's second favorite player to Alvin Kamara, who we'll probably have to talk about in a bit. But that almost was like, no, I don't want him gone. This dude is awesome. I love this guy. I have so many character concerns with this other guy. I also don't want him to be the Falcons quarterback. To be honest, in the end, the Browns came through and I'm like, fuck the Browns. Fuck that stupid contract guaranteeing all that money to a guy who we don't know. He's going to be suspended at some point. We don't know how long.
He's going to miss at least half a season.
Yeah, at least at some point. So I'm like, stupid. But at the same time, it's like he took him out of the conference, let alone the division. And I don't have to have conflicted feelings about him. I feel kind of dirty having wanted him so badly. I don't know. What were you thinking through that whole thing?
So for me, like I was like you at first. I like to be educated. So I scour the internet and I try to find actual police documents, anything that's actually registered, not hearsay, because you get a lot of idiots that go out there and they think that they've heard something, say something, and it spreads like wildfire. It gets regurgitated. So I did read up on the case as much as I possibly could. And when I did, and hearing some of the judges' comments, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in like early December, this could have all the civil cases could have been stopped. Like they could have been over. So they wanted money. The number wasn't disclosed. And he said, I'll pay all of the money. I'm not signing an NDA. So for me, my antennas go up. If the person who's going to pay is saying, I'm not signing an NDA, I want to tell my side of the story. I want to disclose the emails and I want to disclose the text messages, etc., so people can see it. So I'm not painted this sexual villain. Now I'm starting to side being like, well, it's kind of dirty because, you know, the attorney that's defending these 22 women, he's the neighbor of the owner of the Texans. They're really good friends. And now Deshaun Watson's forcing a trade. It all seemed very conspiracy laden. And it took me a while to kind of like separate that and try and be objective and be like, hey, so what's really in front of us? And what the judge said is right. The judge said what he has done is not criminal, but it is vile. I can't arrest you for what you've done, but it is creepy. So I had this conversation with my wife, who's, you know, got her master's in feminist and gender studies. So this is a very interesting conversation. And I said to her, I said, what do you think? And she goes, well, he should lose the privilege of playing football. And I said, well, if we have a school outside and our kid goes to this school and there's a creepy old man in a trench coat standing outside the school, he's not breaking any laws. He's making us uncomfortable, but he's not breaking any laws. We can't tell him that he can't go to Superstore. We can't tell him that he can't go to his job. We can't do any of those things. Now, is he making us uncomfortable because he's being creepy? Yeah, he is. But if he's not breaking any laws, then what are we doing? Like, basically, we're putting our own perspective and our own judgments on somebody else's behavior and saying that's not okay. We're gonna cancel you. 2022 woke mentality, right?
Right.
Again, like everybody, Chris, was it Dave Chappelle? Everybody F's different to everybody. You know, like that whole comedian shtick where he's like,
yeah.
Everybody's weird. Everybody's got their own sexual proclivities, and like for me, I think Deshaun Watson's a creepy human being. I'm not gonna let me preface this. I'm not defending him in any way, but at the same token, I wasn't as conflicted if he was going to be our quarterback. So I'm like, he's just a weird dude. We've had weird guys on our team. Jeremy Shockey was a weird guy.
Yeah. Well, Jameis has his own colored past.
Oh, does he ever? You know, the Uber driver, people seem to forget. And yeah, there's lots of stuff. There's lots. Like you said, though, Cleveland did us a favor. The fact that he's not in the NFC South is fantastic. So again, it's just a stain on the reputation of Gale and Mickey. But I think they'll downlive that pretty quickly because of the fact that they do so much for the city. Like if Gale wanted, like Gale's succession plan is I'm gonna die and sell the team and all the money goes to the city and to all the charity or organizations. Like, come on, like it doesn't matter. She's not an idiot. They have an idea of what they're trying to do. And at the end of the day, it's a business. And if you get a chance to get a top 5 quarterback in the NFL fall in your lap, and it's just a petition, like you're just trying to get after him, I understand it. Now, am I happy he's not our quarterback? Yeah, I'm Team Jameis. I really think we were talking earlier, and I don't want to ramble on because I can go forever, but Jameis, you want to talk pedigree, national champion, Heisman Trophy winner, first overall draft pick, one of 11 people to ever throw for 5,000 yards in the NFL before the 17th game. You know what I mean? This guy is it. Now, he looked over his shoulder the entire season last season because Sean is in love with Taysom. And I don't think he ever felt like Sean was completely bought into him. So he's like, I can't make mistakes. Nobody can do their job at a creative level and be, You know what I mean? Beat
Yeah.
themselves. So everybody's like, well, he didn't throw for over 200 yards. He was terrified to throw a pick. Plus, we had no wide receivers, no Michael Thomas.
It almost seemed like the whole season was being set up to either I'm going to take the training wheels off in the second half. I just want you to prove that you can take what's there. And obviously he didn't get a second half of the season. Or like, I just want you to go a season and show me how few turnovers you can have. And next season we're going to ball out, because it didn't, other than a couple deep shots to Deontay Harris, Hardy. Well, he was Harris last year. But other than a couple deep shots, you know, he really didn't show his arm talent off a lot.
But he couldn't. There's no separation.
Well, in fairness, that Seattle game, he dropped a few beautiful passes in there that just clanked off of Kenny Stills. And Kevin White dropped one or two.
Well, Kevin White. You know what's funny? There was a meme. It's like a little, you know, like the little kids when they get their first basket and everybody runs on the floor and cheers for them, or if somebody's like got Down syndrome and they put them in the game and they let them shoot the ball and everybody like cheers. Kevin White caught a pass and that's how we treated him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what happened. I'm like, that tells you everything you need to know about the state of our wide receiver room. And on a side note, I hope Devin White rolled his ankle right now. Like as we're talking, I hope Devin White slipped and just rolled his ankle. I don't want nothing bad to happen. I just want him to be uncomfortable. I'm just not that man. How dirty is he?
He you know, the year before I was like, that guy is just a cheap shot artist. But that's, I mean, the Bucks have had that at center too with Jensen. I think he signed elsewhere, right? Or did he re-sign with the Bucks?
No, he re-signed.
Oh, that's right.
He's the dirtiest player in the NFL, Jensen.
Yeah, that's their guy. Their center, their middle linebacker, just dirty players. That's their attitude.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day because it's going to happen. Onyemata and him have been getting into it for the last couple of years. At one point in time, it's going to come to a head, and Jensen's going to have to, you know, he's writing that check. He's going to have to cash it, and he doesn't want that. You know, Manitoba Mauler, that's a big boy.
I would love I would, if Onyemata got ejected, just choke slamming that son of a
just grab him in the face mask and just take him to the ground and be like, that's enough.
Yeah. Well, and look at the Saints who give the Bucks front, you know, crazy amounts of you know, the Bucks offensive line looks great unless they play the Saints.
Cam owns that left side.
Yeah, Davenport too, man. Maurice Davenport, if he could stay on the field, what did he play? 9 games and get 8.5 sacks last year?
Did you not read my Twitter?
I do, but I don't know if I saw the reason.
I said, tell me who the MVP of the season next year is going to be, and tell me why it's going to be Marcus Davenport. If he plays 14 games, he's a 20 sack guy.
Yeah.
He has a game record.
I don't know that I have ever seen, and I'm thinking of great defensive linemen just knock offensive linemen on their ass on such a consistent basis. The only guy I can remember in my entire life who did it so often was Reggie White. Yeah. I'm not comparing Davenport to Reggie White. I'm saying just from he used to knock, you know, all pro players on their ass just because his technique and his strength and you know, Davenport does that on a regular basis, multiple times a game. And a lot of times it's not even when he's making a sack. If you just watch him, he'll just destroy somebody on a play that was a quick pass to the other side. And it's like, this dude is just unbelievable.
He's kept us in so many games. You know what I mean? Like that defense, the pressure that they're getting, it's wild. And like when we got Onyemata back, you could tell he was trying to find his legs. Having Davenport really allowed him to kind of ease back in because the pressure from that side of the field is nuts. And the kid behind him, Big Creep, Carl Granderson, who's also got his checkered past, you know, since everybody wants to go high and mighty. He's also been very good. He's a guy that seems like he's pretty driven. He's getting better every year. So
I think he's got ability, and we got a first round pick, Peyton Turner.
He looked good in Carolina, but again, he couldn't stay healthy in the year, and so What do you think the Saints are going to do in the draft this year? Everybody speculates. So Saints Twitter has got people fist fighting from their computer screens and their cell phones, just on opinions. Like, it's okay to have an opinion. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, none of us know a thing. Every single year, every one of us says we're going to do this, and then the Saints go Cesar Ruiz, and we're like, what? So,
right.
Like, what are your? Okay, so here's a question: what do you want the Saints to do, and then what do you think the Saints will do? Because those are two different things.
I want the Saints because I feel like this would be indicative of a team that thinks they are so close to competing, is to keep their two, 16 and 19 now?
Yeah.
Left tackle, wide receiver.
So Penning and Olave.
That's exactly. I've done the PFF mock draft, and every time through the first round, except for once when Olave was off the board, Penning, Olave, those were my picks. And I'm like, all right, well, if it doesn't change, I'm going to keep doing it.
What do you think they're going to do, though?
I just have a feeling, judging from their history, and I'll say this: I don't know how much Sean Payton was the one saying we need to make this move. I don't know how much personnel decisions were his and how much was Loomis and Ireland and all of them. But with their history, it seems like they're going to take those two picks and trade into the top 5.
Oh, and if they do that, it's almost Ditka. It's like literally, it's almost Ditka-esque. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like Ricky Williams is not going to save your franchise. Like, I did an exercise today, and I hadn't done this. I've been doing mock drafts because I'm obviously a fanatic and just something to do. But I traded back. So I took those picks and I accepted anybody that had. So Detroit offered me 32 and 34 and 66 for 16. So I took it, and then I parlayed 19 into 22, and I got 22 and 55. So now, like, you know what I mean? So now I'm at these spots where you can accumulate a bunch of guys, because tell me really, what's the difference? Obviously it's health right now, but from a talent perspective, what's the difference between George Pickens and an Alec Pierce? You take those two guys, you double dip, versus putting all your chips in on Jameson Williams. Like, I think Olave is going to be a guy that's going to stand still and he's going to be good. But if you don't get Olave, why wouldn't you want Alec Pierce and I just lost my train of thought. The other wide receiver.
Yeah, any of those two wide receivers outside of, I think Jameson Williams will be gone before then, and Olave. Olave, I think, is the most bust-proof receiver.
Yeah.
Just, I don't even know that he's going to be a superstar, but to me, it's like he's going to be, I don't know, at least like an Emmanuel Sanders quality.
I was gonna say Stephon Diggs with a little bit of Antonio Brown. Maybe not as aggressive as Antonio Brown.
I think that's high end. Just that's I think the floor is like Emmanuel Sanders. So it's like, that's a good receiver.
Yeah.
So I think he's bust proof. But no, I think you're right. I mean, we saw, if you think back to Michael Thomas, where there were 6 receivers picked before him, and I can't remember now, but I feel like all of them were busts, and those were first and early second round picks.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong.
And it's like, now the receiver class is obviously much better in this draft than it has been and was in that draft. Although I don't think there's a Michael Thomas, for the record. I think he's going to make people regret that they forgot about him. Hopefully. But yeah, no, I think your logic is right. If you can get 2 of these, late first round type wide receivers, they both should be, on paper and on film, they both should be starting quality NFL wide receivers. And if you get 2 of them, even if one ends up being a bust, you still get one.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, I went and looked at a bunch of drafts from like 2014 on. Like, guys like George Kittle was 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you can find talent like Derrick Henry, 51st overall or something like that. Like DK Metcalf,
Alvin Kamara,
3rd round. Like we can find we can find talent. Like obviously you're playing the lottery a bit, but I trust Jeff Ireland in our scouting department. It seems like they've got their pulse on what we want. You know, we have some prototypes or whatever, and people talk about this RAS score. I never heard of it prior to 2018, and then people started talking about it. But I'm sure they have a metric that they look at. But if a player is a player, and he's talented. Now, what I don't want the Saints to do is I don't want them to go BPA just on the defensive side of the ball, because if a guy like Devin Lloyd's there. Don't get me wrong. I know in the long run that's helpful for the Saints, and that's going to be good. But for me now, that would be really frustrating to watch that pick get used on a linebacker that's not going to get the play.
Well, you've got Davis, Cam Jordan, and other guys, but those are the two that jump out at me. It's like these two guys are. Davis will never sniff the Hall of Fame because he doesn't get into the Pro Bowl because the bullshit way that they figure that out. But Cam Jordan's probably a Hall of Famer, and Davis should be, frankly, a Hall of Fame player. Those two guys, how many years do they like? To me, it's like you've got these guys, right? Exactly, you've got these guys. I don't want to pick a guy who. You know, the same reason I don't want to pick Malik Willis. He's not going to start this year. I want to take a shot for the Super Bowl. And by the way, I still think Jameis has a higher upside than any quarterback in this draft. I mean, I like Kenny Pickett on watching him. I like him.
Yeah.
I still like I like Jameis's college film better.
Won a Heisman. This guy won a Heisman. Like this.
Yeah.
This is what I don't get. Like. He's coming off an injury, so it's I guess it's out of sight, out of mind. And you said it very eloquently. Like there's just you like one guy better than you like the other guy. If you take all the stuff away, take the names off, take your preconceived notions of what people are doing, you like one guy more than you like the other guy. So in that case, what are we doing? Like what is this juxtaposition that all these fans seem to have where they're looking at being like, it's really not that serious. You know, it's not that big of an issue. And like, we're making it that when as we know that we could ride Jameis, like you said, to a Super Bowl. And I think that that's the biggest thing. I think in this draft, they're going to show us if they believe that. If they go Trevor Penning, you know, with that first pick, they're saying, hey, we can move Hurst inside for Ruiz. We can move Hurst inside for Ruiz. And now we have a solidified 5 on our offensive line. It's going to help us. And then if they do something like trade back and get 2 more picks and say they get Ritter with one of those picks and they let him sit.
Yeah.
That tells us we're going to groom a guy for later, but we're riding with Jameson. It's not a problem to have 2 good quarterbacks, but don't waste one of your early picks when you're a Super Bowl contending team still. We won 9 games last year with the record of injuries and no receivers. Literally, they asked you and I to come play. I had a rolled ankle. I couldn't make it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I had COVID.
So, it is a bit of people think that I, as a fan, I'm too optimistic and I got rose-colored glasses, but I'm like, just be objective. You have a team that won 9 games last year that played with like literally XFL players for the bulk of the season and a tight end at quarterback.
Yeah, and look, you know, the one thing that last game of the season, the Rams, the Super Bowl champion team, don't blow a 17-point lead. The Saints get to the playoffs. Now, granted, the one thing, and we may disagree on this, I'm like, when Taysom went down, I'm like, all right, well, the playoffs don't matter because Simeon's not going to beat anybody. Taysom, he could have won a playoff game or two. He 100%. Beat the Bucs. I mean, now granted, that was not a great game by him. He just did the bare minimum needed.
Hey.
By the way, Taysom, other than the game after he really effed up his finger, he didn't turn over the ball in any of his starts except for that game against Dallas.
When he got hurt, he was okay. So me and my buddy, the guy that I do my podcast with, Justin, Vanilla Thriller, shout out. We were laughing. We were watching that game like on the phone with each other, and we're like, "This is the best he's ever looked." He was whipping that ball in there. It was decisive. He looked clean. Like, go back and watch that film.
Yeah.
Before he gets hurt, he looked great. Not good. He looked great. And that's unfortunate, you know, because
I feel terrible. What would have happened if he had gotten a start, you know, and then the COVID, he would have beaten the Dolphins, by the way. I'm certain of it.
100%.
But if he got to start, like, part of me is, even going into this offseason, I'm like, I don't want Taysom to be our starting quarterback. But if we draft a quarterback for the future and say, I thought Jameis was going to sign for a lot more money than what the Saints paid him. So I could see him being priced out of the market and us being like, all right, we're going to draft Ritter and Taysom's going to be our starter. And obviously Ritter is going to be the guy who hopefully can take over next year.
Yeah.
I could see Taysom Hill being good enough, especially if you game plan it around him, where we're investing in certain positions way more than others. And we're going to just run the ball down your throat kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Taysom's even I felt terrible the last game when he got hurt against Atlanta. He was playing amazing in that game too.
That's the problem. Yeah, he was accurate. He was doing really well in that game.
That's that's the thing. When he went down, I'm like, I almost hope this is a big time injury, which not obviously for his sake. I don't want him seriously injured, but I'm like, if we miss the playoffs and it's like, oh, he would have been fine to play, I would have been like, God damn it, we would have won at least a playoff game or two. When it's like, yeah, he's out for months. It's like, all right, well, we would have lost anyways. Trevor Siemian's not winning.
It just solidified my hate for the Niners and for the Rams because that's nothing, and they can't hold on. The secondary, they're making Jimmy Garoppolo look like Tom Brady. All of it was just poetic.
I was afraid they were going to make Jimmy Garoppolo our quarterback.
That's just, you know what? So I used to be a Lakers fan. I'm anti-LeBron, and that's, if you ever want to have another podcast, I can come on talk anti-LeBron talk for 3 hours, and it has nothing to do with his person. I think LeBron as a human being is fantastic. I think he's actually a great philanthropist and he's a great human being. But I think as a basketball player, I can't cheer for him. There's just too many weaknesses up here that I can't respect. And anyways, that would have made me. I'm never not being a Saints fan, but I would be watching the game like this.
I don't watch a lot of NBA, but I watch the Pelicans-Lakers game. And if you saw my Twitter, I was just like,
I did.
It is awful. It's awful.
Well, my man, I hate to cut this short. I do have to get some stuff done, and but I'd love to come back on, and I'd love to have you on our podcast if you would. If you're going to be a guest on ours. We don't do the live thing, so this is actually my first time doing my face on something. Hopefully your viewers aren't upset having looked.
Yeah, drop a plug for your podcast.
Yeah, so we do a podcast here out of Winnipeg. It's completely Saint centric. We are diehard Hootats in the Winnipeg, 204 from the 504. It's the Bring the Wood podcast. The BTW is my tag over on Twitter. It's at Ryyan Koleric, and yeah, man, it's a little thing, but we have different perspectives. We do a bunch of fun things. Like I do Saints awards mid-season, postseason. We had this one, so this is what we'll do. We'll have you on the podcast, and I'll leave you with this. You can think about it, okay? This is a question that I asked Chris Rosvogel. He came on our podcast, and then I'm going to try and get Nick Underhill and Kevin Washington to actually come on the podcast again, so I can interview them, because they're like the beacon of where we get our non-biased, objective Saints takes, information, because they're plugged in. So if you had 75,000 people that have never heard of football before, they never heard of football and don't know what the NFL is, how do we make them Saints fans? How do we let them know what football is based on the Saints, and who would we use to sell the Saints to these people? So Chris's answers were pretty chalky, right? He's like Ross Jackson, Nick Underhill, Kevin Washington, and I think he said the Twitter podcast, That Boy Wolf, right? Those guys. So yeah, those three were his selling points for him, and I was like, cool. But it'd be a cool thing to have you on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could get that answer. Who would you have to sell? And you could use players, you could use media, you could use whatever. But a creative answer, we'll have you on.
Yeah, well, Alvin Kamara before the Pro Bowl weekend would have been a thing.
We got to talk about that too. I didn't have to run away, because this guy's never been in any trouble in his life, and that was where it happened. That's just wild.
Yeah, I've got some feelings.
I saw the video. I got feelings too.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. I had a blast. Of course, talking football, talking the Saints is always fun.
Yeah, man. I love it. Let's do it again for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.
All right, my man.